what Gary's doing, he's writing a book. He's using AI to write this book.
Wow.
And he used AI to write this podcast. So it's being produced and asked by basically ChatGPT with your information, Clearmark Titles information, Hometowns information, and they just kind of threw it all together.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of Jerry, but it's a lot of technology. So
I love it.
Bear with me. I got a little bit of a script to go by here, but
I've been waiting for the conversation with ChatGPT.
This is the conversation with ChatGPT. So what we're doing is we're actually getting all this podcast, and then we are putting this in the book with a QR code so people can read the book, but they can scan and watch this podcast as well. And then they can also interact with it, because from what you guys are saying, one of the questions, how does your environment matter? And what are you doing with your environment? And that's the questions that they can, it's a workbook also that they can write in there.
Very cool.
So it's not just learning, it's not just watching, but it's also they're giving back into the book.
It's new for me too. I mean, when I got the script last night at 1:30 in the morning, and he's like, "You got the script?" I was like, "I got no time to do any." And he's like, "No, you're good. Just stick to the script, and it'll be a lot shorter." All right, so Paul. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Paul Morris joining the podcast. Welcome, Paul. Paul, you've got a laundry list of titles. And we're grateful for a lot of things. But one thing what we really want to highlight is USA Today 2023 did a list of entrepreneurs to watch. And on the top of the list was our very own Paul Morris. So I want to say congratulations.
All right.
That's super exciting. How did that feel when you first found out about that?
It feels weird, you know.
Okay.
Because there's so much time, energy, and effort that we put into things that that add up to something like that you're never sure which thing is going to pop or which thing is going to take off. It's almost like you guys do so much in social media, like what goes viral, what doesn't. You're just not sure. You put a lot of great content out, and sometimes something gets, you know, you're like, oh, this is, I mean, I've written stuff that I just thought was, you know, wildly hilarious and was going to take off, and I got like 12 likes. And so you don't know. I knew, of course, because they interviewed me for the piece, but I didn't know whether I would make the cut at all. And, you know, that's definitely a surprise to be number one, because I think of top entrepreneurs, I think of like Elon Musk and that sort of thing. But when you bring it back down, which is what we do in our everyday, it is the folks like you guys, and it's the folks like us that are really doing the entrepreneurial thing every single day. And so it's kind of fun to, I feel like, a representative of the, you know, millions of people that are entrepreneurs. So
in our business, right? I mean, being
absolutely.
a real estate agent or business owner is by definition like almost the epitome of being an entrepreneur.
That's right.
Dare I say it's also a recognition of the collective. I mean, you guys have put together a really great team of people, team leaders in different offices. And we talked about Clearmark Title. It goes, you're invested in a lot of people and a lot of things. And so, you know, one thing we were talking about a little bit earlier today was how nice it is to be in this environment. As Josh says, environment matters, and we all are here to elevate each other, and we complement each other in such a great way. So I'm just really honored to be part of this crew.
I had a question for this entrepreneurship. Like, what do you think let's not say beat out everyone. Like, but what do you think was the key factor of being the entrepreneur of the year? Like, what do you think was, what was different, you know? So
I think there are things that distinguish me. I'm not sure that those are the things necessarily that got in, because there's a lot of hard work, and then there's a lot of happenstance. And I think what distinguishes me as an entrepreneur is a willingness and a desire to learn all the time. I think not just entrepreneur, but also just as an individual, and being willing to say, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at. That may be the single thing that stands in most people's way, is that even if they know they're great at something, you know, or they think they're great at something, and they get bad feedback, just not being able to handle a mistake, or it's the way we're trained as kids, is grow up and we want to do everything right, and we want to get it right, and you want to get A's on your tests, and you know, so I think that's a major distinguishing thing. probably what led to the actual selection versus what distinguishes me is that, and it's always a sort of one thing, one stone leads to another. And we were, I was pitching a show with an amazing production company. I'm not afraid to say their name, Pytown. It's an amazing production company. And thankfully I wasn't writing the show because that's not my thing. And different networks kept saying, well, pivot, and we want to pivot here and a pivot there. And the head producer and I came up with this concept, which I liked so much that I said, you know what, I'm going to do this, whether this becomes a show or not, I'm going to do it. And then that idea sort of caught fire with USA Today, and so they did a feature article on it. And they're like, wow, this is such a timely, interesting thing right now, that I think that's how they caught wind of me. Because to be really clear, thank you to USA Today for the selection, and I want to. The other thing I feel is a little bit of, like I have to grow into the shoes of something like that. So I always feel like a responsibility when that happens, like the
accountability.
Right? Yeah, the first thing that happened, I wrote a book and it was on, and we're talking about writing a book, right? And I wrote a book and it was on the New York Times bestseller list, and it debuted ahead of Tony Robbins. And like that was a total shock. And when somebody asked me a similar question, and I don't really know what to do other than be authentic, and they sort of like, well, what did you feel when you first, looked at that paper? And really, like, you want to be like excited and proud and all these sort of things. And I just like really, actually what I felt was a sense of responsibility. And, because I wrote a lot of interesting things down, some of which I actually follow, many of which I don't. And so I'm like, I have this. Yeah, that's right. So I'm like, well, so I felt like I wanted to grow into the shoes of a New York Times bestseller. So to be clear about this particular thing, I want to say that I'm proud to have that award, and I want to feel like, it's deserved, but I also realize that there's probably like 10,000 people that would be just as deserving, for real. So it is the kind of like cool. Turn the stone, Yeah. One stone leads to another, and sometimes the step backs are the things that push you forward, which is something Josh and I talk about all the time.
And I got to comment on one thing, like Paul's open-mindedness and his seeking to understand and always looking to learn. One of the smartest guys I know, period, and I know a lot of really smart people. And it is about like turning theory, which we're really good at, into practice, right? Per what you said about responsibility and accountability for that award. Like, how do we take what we know and actually do it on a consistent basis? Because a lot of people know a lot, but doesn't mean they're doing it. That's right. So that is how you achieve, that's how you build credibility, and you lead by example, and that's how you become the best leader you can be.
Perfect. Gosh, I'm hearing all of this, and you guys, everyone here has collectively taken a risk towards their dream and invested into their passion. I just wanted to ask Josh and Paul, both you guys, you work with a ton of agents, you've worked with a bunch of different people. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what attracts you and to the vision of Hometown and to Gary and Robert's vision, and talk a little bit about the support that you guys are giving them and why you get behind these two guys?
Me or you? We're always striving to create more value, right? And anything we can do to create more value and allow our agents to work smarter and create leverage is at the forefront of what we do every day. And so when we meet Gary and Robert and they see the passion and their leadership by example, and then as they create Hometown and have created Hometown, it's an amazing tool that allows agents to use their time more effectively. So why would we, of course, not stand behind that with tremendous, passion? And that's what Hometown and really the people, because it always does come back to the people, like represent to us. It's great people, it's great leadership, creating great tools and systems that allow our agents, our clients to use their time most effectively. We all have a limited amount of time. It's it's always about how do we use that time most effectively.
And, you know, when you were talking about the product, which is very important, I was thinking exactly what you said, and that's that the people are often more important than the product, because we know that when we're behind the right people, we know that things need to change and morph. They need to grow from where they are now. When we look at something that looks really great, how's it going to be in a year from now? How's it going to be 6 months from now? And so it's really the people that matter in that vein. And, you know, I always end up liking to give advice one way or the other. I think so, unsolicited or not.
I think that's what we really connected with you guys with. And that's why we started the Social Media Mastermind. We just had a whole session with the Social Media Mastermind. And I remember the day you stepped in and Josh was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Like, and there's like 20, 30 people. And you said, was this approved by the front office? And I said, no. And he said, good job, you know, good leadership. Right. And that's what we tell our group all the time, right, Jerry? Like we tell our group, look, you're in an environment here at KW Beverly Hills at Forward Living where it empowers you to do what you think could be done for your business. Take advantage of this network. Take advantage of this environment to really leverage not only yourself, but other people and the group. And I think when you give value is what we try to do in our Social Media Mastermind class, you'll get value back. And that's what we really aim to do from the very start.
Leaders and good people.
Sorry, what was that?
No, so you see that? You guys actually don't need me here, because that was exactly the advice that
we want you here, Paul.
No, that Gary gave was exactly the advice that I was thinking. And so because of that, I just want to you know, reiterate it. And one of the things that you highlighted was taking initiative. So that's super important. The other thing that has to really go hand in hand to get noticed. So the question is like, hey, we're agents new to your company and we have 3,000 realtors. How do we like get together with the people that run the 3,000 person firm? And the answer to that is two parts. One is initiative and the other is contribution. Mm-hmm. And so most people don't take the initiative. So they would like something, but they don't take the initiative. And then that's a certain subset. You actually take initiative, you're way better off. And then there are the people that do take initiative, but they're coming at it from me kind of thing. And you guys have so much initiative, and just it's in your nature to give and the contribution. And then after that, I think it is important to say, okay, great, we've taken initiative. We have been helpful to you guys. Now here's what we need. And you need to have that asked too.
And that comes back to leading with value, right? And I always say, like, I'd rather my people, for whatever that means, you being sort of one of them, or our people, all of us together, rather ask for forgiveness than for permission. Sorry, I'm just going to get real. Yeah. Like it with coming from contribution, with being well-intentioned. Yep. And that's something like, from the day I met you, I knew you were well-intentioned. Oh, yeah. And then you take initiative, and I'm always about like, and when there's great things happening and we don't need to be a part of it or even know about it, I mean, that's gold. Yep. And a lot of people have a hard time understanding that. That's empowering people. That's great leadership. Like, you don't need to be there, right? You just need to create an environment where it is conducive for people to be feeling empowered, feeling like it's safe to be vulnerable.
So that goes to the next question for you guys, Gary and Robert. Like, as technology drives your initiatives, how do you intend to preserve the personal touch and the trust and that's inherent, like in every real estate transaction?
I think something I can say about Hometown and the initial idea and concept why we started this is to really solve a pain point for agents, and not we're talking values, we're talking benefits. I think all that is that's great. But what I did with Gary, I'm a designer. I watch all the micro touch points with Gary Watt Homes.
He followed me for 6 months.
I followed him for 6 months.
Yep.
And understanding every part of the process, touch points, micro touch points, how he talks to client, how client reacts to him and what the process is like, and also what happens emotionally as well. From that kind of level, in that complex level, we were able to really understand what's going on the agent side and also the buyer side. So I think the human touch with what Jerry said, is really understanding people, and that way you truly build a product that can give value in that sense.
And you have to be in the trenches in order to figure that out.
Right.
And that's something even as leaders or executives of a firm, sometimes we pride ourselves on not being in the trenches, because you see a lot of broker owners are selling a ton of real estate. You're like, well, how are they taking care of the brokerage? The flip side of that is they understand the process. So we really have to have.
You got to balance it.
You got to balance it, but getting into got to get in the trenches. The only way that you can create something that's going to be magic for realtors.
Right, and also with the book that we're trying to build, it's how we design it is not just about our process. Like our book cover says, our story, right? Mm-hmm. But it's actually not about us. It's about how we started the journey and how we come up with exercises and solutions to those problems, and actually having to have a way to ideate. Mm-hmm. If you don't see a problem, you don't know that it's a problem. So we want users or readers to be able to notice, to understand yourself, understanding your touch points. I think that's a really crucial point for agents, and also with the book that we're trying to make as well.
Feedback.
Did you? Yeah, I was just gonna say, did you A/B test the title?
We did. We're trying.
We're testing it now.
You're testing it now. Yeah, it's important because
it's important.
Yeah, the sort of, I think the news services and whatever have really mastered the clickbait thing, So we've got to take a lesson from that. You don't want the clickbait, which turns out to be the bait and switch for sure, which you get from some articles, or the slow unfolding of nothing.
Right.
That you get so mad at yourself when you go down that bunny hole. But yeah, figuring out the thing that catches and encapsulates your thing is important.
I wanted to kind of touch on that. Also, Forward Living is such a huge network of people and entrepreneurs and all walks of life. How do you guys see Forward Living being a kind of fundamental or intricate part to hometown success story?
Well, I think that as a brokerage with so many independent contractors, that you have to be a little bit of something for everyone. So you can't give one solution, because one solution doesn't fit all, especially with real estate. And we see a lot of that in the way that you have taken the evolution of your app to ideate and to move with different realtors. So there are going to be realtors that are better at videography and other realtors that really know a certain neighborhood extremely well. And that's how I see this product morphing alongside of the realtors. And guess what else? The people who are most we want to provide, maybe something for everyone, but the people who engage the most in our brokerage are the ones that tend to get the furthest. And that's exactly how I see the app too. The more you engage in the app, the further you're going to get.
Environment matters only to the extent that you engage in the environment.
There you go.
That goes for our environment and within Forward Living, and it goes for your engagement in the hometown app.
Yeah. And so on one hand, you have to make it easy and interesting for people to get engaged. On the other hand, it's the ones that get engaged that get rewarded, and it makes a lot of sense.
I think that's a really big point also. A lot of people feel like, I join a brokerage and magically they do better. Magically, stuff's gonna happen. But But that's also what I love about KW Beverly Hills is that every time you come here, there's a class to engage. You guys are constantly speaking. You guys are constantly teaching. That was one thing I talked about with Josh earlier. You know, you guys are constantly doing this, and there's not a lot of brokers or owners that care that much and would put the time into it also. And you don't just do it with this office. You do it with every office.
And we try to be very intentional. It's just not having something on the calendar. It's something of value.
Yeah.
And always striving to cater to the top.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Like, don't cater to the least common denominator. Cater to the best of the best, and then that will elevate and create a new standard.
And at the same time, you know, one of my favorite examples I've used over the years is you can't learn how to ride a bicycle in a seminar. And so, yes, we have great content. Yes, we have great classes. And when we do our mindset piece, it's like, hey, let's get a kick in the butt and get out there. And your app is designed to work in the field. Mm-hmm. And that's what's, again, rewarding the right kind of engagement. So if you have an app where, hey, let's create content and we'll sit around and, you know, that's not going to really
standardized content,
yeah,
you know. That's
not really going to help buyers and sellers and realtors to service their needs. But out in the field is where it happens.
Yep.
I love that. And that just brings me to the next question. With your real estate background, both you, Josh, and Paul, and as seasoned entrepreneurs, what kind of guidance could you give the hometown team to kind of successfully navigate through the intricate and constantly evolving world of real estate?
I mean, I'll start by saying some of the things we've already said is just feedback. Like, just be very purposeful about creating an ecosystem where feedback is welcomed, appreciated, and rewarded. And that's how you're going to accelerate the learning curve. They got to listen to your customer, right? In this case, which is the agent, right? Listen to them, get their feedback, and be very purposeful about, you know, getting that, and then a willingness to take action with speed and urgency to make the appropriate adaptations. I think that's like the key to being an entrepreneur. Expect the unexpected, but create an environment where communication is imperative, and then you're willing to adapt and pivot and, you know, just continue to raise the bar and not be afraid to make mistakes. I think that's something that we always talk about. You know, action is the antidote, and that's, to me, the key to life. And we get in our own way with the stories we tell ourselves. But if you focus on the data and the feedback, and you try to take the emotion out of it, and you make smart, intelligent decisions based on information and data, then you're going to be a lot smarter, and you're going to evolve a lot more quickly.
Awesome.
And the more granular advice is that there's this question, really, it's not a question for me, but maybe a question for Wall Street or some other people, technologists, and they wonder, is it going to be agents aided by technology, or is it going to be technology aided by agents? And there's a lot of reasons that I believe that the agent will remain the focal point. And if someone, by the way, could figure out how to get rid of the agents, they would make, you know, many billions of dollars, and people have been trying to do it unsuccessfully. And it's worked in a lot of industries. It's worked in the travel agents have gone, you know, been replaced by Expedia and those sorts of things. And the reason why is because, number one, real estate is going to be one of the most important decisions that any individual makes. I actually finally looked at the stats after talking about it for so long, and, you know, for like the overwhelming majority of households with any wealth, the majority of that wealth is held in real estate. So it's going to be a big decision for anybody. And then the differentiator between real estate as a product and like a travel agent, for example, is sort of like seat 3A on, you know, on American Airlines from LAX to JFK it's the same as the same. And I will literally go online and I'll choose a different app or a different service if I can save $1. And real estate, unless you are actually buying a tract home inside of a massive, tract of identical units, which none of us, that's not the way humans want to live.
But even that's different if you think about where it faces.
Yeah, where does it face, right? It's like, it's crazy. Even in that example, it still makes sense to have a realtor and something that's going to help empower a realtor to find the right neighborhood for a client. What are the things that a client likes? Where are they going to be most comfortable? What type of house they want? Everything, like these details, to the point where, having been in the business as long as I have been, with a level of success in investing and buying houses, I always consult a realtor who knows the neighborhood like the back of their hand, and that is the name of this app.
Exactly.
Your hometown.
And I really do that. So the last house I purchased, I moved finally from Santa Monica to Hollywood Hills, and I know the area, and I have a real estate office, 6 minutes away, and there's a lot of people I could ask, but I went to somebody who's in our firm, who knows that area like the back of their hand. When I told them the house, they're like, I've stood in that house several times. I know exactly. I started to tell them a little bit about it, and they're like, okay, so I've stood in that house. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. So, here are my questions. And that's the kind of information that is absolutely invaluable.
And that's where I feel like, like you said, when most real estate technology is trying to take the agent out, I think that can't be taken out. And it could try to be taken out, but I think when you put the agent front and center and to really empower them to really speak about their neighborhoods, not just about the houses, but also the environment. What's it like to live in Hollywood Hills versus Santa Monica? When people think, I'm going to live in LA, it's a big place, and it's very different to live in Santa Monica versus Hollywood Hills. What environment do I get? What kind of people do I meet? What industries are in there? And that's what we really want to empower agents to do as well with this app.
Well, we always say, all real estate is local, right? It's not that there's so much validity to that. It's very personal.
Yeah.
And I think Hometown really, harnesses that and really helps create a lot of value around that.
Especially in this competitive market. I mean, you need agents who know those areas more than ever. I think it's just so competitive. Gary, Robert, I just wanted to ask you guys, so what are your plans for Hometown coming up, especially now that you have some competitive advantages collaborating with a powerhouse like Ford Living and the Keller Williams Beverly Hills and some of the other offices? So what's next? What do we see for you guys?
Well, I think what we want to do is really empower the agents even more. We talked about this last time about, I think what was really interesting when we presented Hometown to you guys the first time, I could see in the back of the room your confused look. Like, what is this and why are agents going to be wanting this at all? And you guys had your doubts. I saw it. And most brokers do. And I see brokers always confused about, well, how are they going to get them leads and things like that, right? And I remember Renee, the team leader, standing up like, no, you guys don't understand the pain points that we go through. You don't understand how this solves a problem. We deal with this on a day-to-day basis. We deal with showings. We deal with trying to get famous on Instagram. We try to make content and all that stuff. It's just hard to do on all these other platforms. And this brings it all together. And Renee was talking and arguing with you guys, and she was given the pitch. And that's what we love about bringing the agents in, because you can actually see what they love and what they love about the app. Now, that's where it brings us to the second phase. And you suggested, why not let the agents invest in the app?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Why not let the user invest in the app? They're the ones that are going to spread it. They're the ones that are going to use it. We become the technology. We just become a branch of their technology arm in that sense, and empowering them even more. Now, you're talking about 3,000 agents all over from Newport Beach to Bakersfield. Like, we're actually meeting with the team leaders in South Bay and also La Mirada on Monday. We're taking them on a boat.
Nice.
You guys are invited.
Like perks.
Boats help.
And doing this interview really to see how they can empower their agents also. Getting them involved with the book, but I think also getting them involved with investing in it and giving them first dibs. And we're only raising $1 million. We don't want to raise any more because we don't want to give more of the company away. We want to hold it in that sense. But by giving this first round to agents, I think they're going to love that sense of empowerment and what they can do.
Absolutely. And I've seen apps that are, intended to assist the agents, and their price points have been, from very low to, astronomically high. Look at like sort of the top of the food chain would be like a Salesforce that has all these proprietary, they have figured out a way to like lock you in because you're building on top of their app, and that's a good that's a good moat around their business. I get it.